BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I don't think I've talked about how my goals went in 2025, so I thought I would do my update on to talk about how my goals went last year, and I've already done my video on my goals for this year, kind of a more rambly video. So maybe I feel like I almost should have saved that and just didn't wait until January to film that. And the same thing with my favorites of the year, but I think I just did my favorites, so never mind. I did do my favorites in January, I think. But I wish I had done that, but I saw other people doing theirs, so I got excited and wanted to film those videos for you guys because everyone else was talking about theirs. And I think that's my problem is that, it's not a problem, but it's just, I get inspired or motivated, whatever you want to call it, to film certain videos now when I watch other people's versions of them. And sometimes I think I need to try this year to not do that and just do them when I think is a good time to do them, instead of just because, other people do it, so it must be a good time for me to do it. But anyway, so let's talk about my goals for 2025. So I wanted to focus on, I dropped the Rory Gilmore reading list challenge because a lot of the books, I had more books from her, from the show reading list challenge, which they refer to that as the Rory Gilmore reading list, but actually the books on there, the reason why it was longer is because it wasn't just encompassing the books that Rory did read, but it was encompassing the books that were mentioned throughout the show, not just her books, but books that other characters brought up, like Jess and Lorelai and Suki and Luke and all those characters. Even the ones that they mention a book but they don't read them, or like even Richard and Emily, and or just books that, like, Lord of the Rings, I know was mentioned a few times, but I don't know if Rory actually read Lord of the Rings. She might have read Lord of the Rings, because it's I think she's the type of person that if something is considered a classic book and is very beloved and very popular and just considered something special, then I think she would try that book. She would read it. Actually, no, I think she did say that she read The Fellowship, because I remember when she was dating Dean, he said he saw the movie when she asked him about it. I think. It's been a while, though. I don't even remember what episode that was. I just know it was when her and Dean were dating. But the list that was created for the books that she actually read herself, the books that are seen in her room, the books that it looks like she's read them and she talks about them thoroughly and all that. A lot of those it didn't interest me. Or like I tried the author and I just decided the author wasn't for me. Even though in some of those cases I only read one particular author, I only read one book by them, so there's always a possibility I can give them another shot, but I already returned their books that I bought. I donated them back to the Outpost Bookshop. But I will talk about that author later. I'll mention that author later. But I did start a new reading challenge, a new reading project in replace of it, which was the Tudor and Plantagenet Dynasty project, which now I'm confused. I don't know if that's considered medieval or Renaissance. I don't know. I have to look it up. When the 1400s, would that be the Renaissance period or the medieval? I want to say Renaissance. I was calling it medieval, but I think it might be the Renaissance period. I would have to double check on that, but I think the 1400s is considered Renaissance. But so I started that one, and I am sort of in, like, with the books that I think are intimidating and challenging. That's more of an ongoing, these are all ongoing projects, but that one is one that I'm not going to be, I'm going to take more time with that one. I don't even know if I've read any books that would apply to that one this year. um I don't know. Although it does depend on what you consider challenging or intimidating. I would have to look. I did actually. I don't know why I normally. I mean, I know why I don't do it. Why I don't print out my list of the books that I've read, because every year I create a document on my laptop. But this year I'm also writing it down. Hopefully I'll stick with that, because sometimes I get like lazy and like I don't want to write this down anymore. And just stick to typing it on the computer. And I think I'll still do that. I'm still doing that. But I don't know why I didn't print it out. Or I think I rewind. I know why I don't print them out, but I feel like I should do that. Just so like when I do these videos, I will have a list instead of going back and forth on here on my computer. But I don't print them out because I like to play with the font color of them, and then so that means more ink will be used. So I would have to change it to regular ink, black ink, automatic ink. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. I like playing with the coloring ink. So, but just for the sake of printing it out, I'm gonna what I'll do is like change the color and to automatic regular color, not like different colors, but the automatic black ink, and then I'll switch it back. I mean, there's a chance I'll forget which colors I use, but I think I have a vague idea what I use. Sorry, I have my TV on this actually it's not even HGTV, it's the newer one, Magnolia Network. And I'm deciding because I wanted to see the results of the house that this was working on, that. So I kind of got caught in it for a second. But anyway. So I'm being more slow about that one. And I will, as I go through my list, I will see which books were my reading challenging books, if I have read anything I don't think I have this year. But maybe I have. Or maybe books that I don't think are challenging, you guys might think are challenging. We will. But, I mean, I know I've read a few chunky books, long ones. And then, so I think I made some progress on that goal of reading longer books. I'm really going to focus on this year. And I've started that already. Reading something that is not a hard, or it's hard in some ways, but easy in others. Like, it's a little easier for me, but I can see why, because there was a time when I thought that this particular book was intimidating. But now as I'm reading it and making progress, I'm like, it's not that bad. It's not that hard. But, I mean, even for other people, yeah, they will still consider it hard and boring and tedious and all that stuff. But I will talk about that in a little bit. I don't know if I'll talk about it. We will see. Well, maybe I will mention what book that is. But anyway. And then, I also, the Plantagenet and Tudor Dynasty one, that was a late start. Like, I had just started towards the end of the year, so I didn't make a lot of progress on that one. But I did make a little bit. Like, or at least I started it, at the end of the last few months of the year. And, as far as, I meant to count how many classics. I guess I'll have to do this on here. I'll count how many classics. Let's see, I'm trying to think of a Tolkien project. I'm very pleased to report I did make some progress on that one. And here's where I'll mention the book that I started this year. That is, it is Tolkien related. It's actually the actual Lord of the Rings book. I've listened to that one on audio, and I kept saying that I was going to physically read it as well, because I felt like I should physically read it. And finally, in this year, in 2026, the year of our Lord 2026, I finally started it, and I made sure to start it or at Christmas time, because for some reason I felt like it could be a potential Christmas read. And, of course, there was no way I was going to finish it for Christmas, but I made sure I started it around Christmas time by the end of 2025, and I am on the second the part 2, The Two Towers, and I'm on book 2 of The Two Towers. Because that's how it's divided. If you get the copy of the book, not the individual Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King, and those individual, but if you get the whole big book, then it's divvied up into the Fellowship part 1, the Fellowship, and then the 2 books of the Fellowship. Two Towers is the next part, and that has 2 books. And then Return of the King is the last part with two books, and then you have all the appendices and stuff. That's how it's separated. And that's how Tolkien wanted it originally to be published, but they were like, hell no. No one's going to want to read a big chunky book that's over 1,000 pages for fun. So you're going to have to publish it as individual books. And he did. But now all the anniversary editions or a lot of special editions come as the big, huge 1,000-page book, and it's divvied up. But it's in one big physical book. And that's, like I said, so it's Tolkien's finally getting his way. Before he died. Long after he died. Not before. He's not alive. And so that's the big hunker book that I think is intimidating on some level, but not, it's time investment, it's super long. The writing style isn't always appealing. There are chapters that bore me, and I have to begrudgingly admit that I can understand why some people would not want to read it because of all the chapter, how detailed in description, and he spends a lot of time talking. But as Terry herself admitted, he was a professor, so it makes sense. And that sometimes the movie would be a little easier to watch, not read. So, but I am very proud of myself for reading that book, and reading the whole Lord of the Rings. And that is actually, so I made some progress on that project. And let me get started on showing you. Okay, so I've read, so in 2025, I read 3 Tolkien related books. One of them, though, was not Middle-earth related. It was Tolkien related. And that was The Fall of Arthur, his take on Arthur. But in particular, happened after it was the whole Guinevere and Lancelot was revealed to Arthur, and he goes to war, and his son, his bastard son, Mordred shows up in the poem. So yes, it's an epic poem. And I really like this. I liked reading that. I do want to reread it again because I feel like I can't. I feel like I wouldn't fully comprehend until I read it more than once. Ideally, multiple times would be good. I hope I still have it. I have to check, though. I might not have it, because I have felt this anxiousness and feel like, okay, I gotta remove books from my shelf and donate them. And that's one of those books where I feel like sometimes in the moment, I feel like it's not necessarily one I want to keep. But then I realize it's Tolkien. And of course I want to keep it. And of course I want to reread it again. And because there's something special about Tolkien and his writing and his works. And so I've read Humphrey Carpenter's biography on Tolkien. He is also the same guy who edited the letters from Tolkien, that big book. That was his work. That's what Humphrey Carpenter edited that one. And so I think he's a Tolkien historian. I'm a big fan of Tolkien. And then, so the only one that, and then the third one actually is directly related to Middle Earth, and that is Beren and Luthien. That is his epic romance story, and it's in some of his other, it's in the Silmarillion. It might be in Other Tales, which I don't have that one yet. So it's in his other works, and it's in Unfinished Tales. So, and that's the thing. With Tolkien's work, sometimes you can find some of his other works in bind-ups, like Unfinished Tales and the other Tales of Middle-earth book. So it's like, unless you are a hardcore Tolkien fan and a completist and you feel like you want a whole collection like I do, then buying the individual books, either, you can buy both the individual, but sometimes that, for some people, that could be potentially a waste of space, I guess. So you don't have to buy or you can buy the individual books and not necessarily, well, although, I don't know, maybe you do want to buy the Unfinished Tales because there are other stories in there that might not have a separate publication. I don't know. But, so, and that was kind of the story that was, the precursor to Arwen and Aragorn. And it's actually on Tolkien and his wife Edith's tombstones are the names Beren and Luthien, which I think was really sweet, very romantic, that he saw that couple was representing him and his wife in a way. Like, he's comparing her to an elf. Not the cute little elves that make cookies and toys and stuff like the Santa Claus or the Keebler elves, but the elves of his world, like, that are elegant and beautiful and immortal and just enchanting. And so I think that's very romantic that he did that. So those are the ones I've read. Like I said, I am off to a good start because I am finally picked up and started to read Lord of the Rings. And I was tempted to buy other copies of Lord of the Rings. That's the separate books. But I decided to let it go. I think when my nephews and niece get a little bit older, I'll have to buy them Lord of the Rings. I think a lot of people say that it's not a good time at age 10, going on 11 this year, because he might be bored. Because at least The Hobbit is kind of more fun and adventure and a little bit more exciting, while Lord of the Rings has a lot of tedious moments that are kind of boring because characters are just talking, or you're being described the beautiful landscapes of Middle-earth, and which I like it, but my nephew Harrison and his brother Daniel might not love it so much. Might not appreciate it the same way I do. Okay, so that's how I am with the Tolkien project. Like I said, I'm off to a good start because I'm actually finally physically reading Lord of the Rings, because I have listened to the audiobook. Not the Andy Serkis one, but the older one. And so that is 3 books there. Okay. Oh no, I did. I was like, I didn't write the numbers for those categories. For Stephen King, unfortunately, once again, I keep doing this every year. I say I'm going to read more Stephen King, but then what ends up happening is I either don't read any Stephen King, or this, in 2025, I at least read 2 Stephen King, which still is something, because at least I read some Stephen King, which were Christine, the one with the haunted car, the first one, because I know there's also Buick 8, is another haunted car story, and there might be another haunted car story. I really loved that one, and I don't know why, but I kind of prefer that one over, I think I like the idea, even though I'm not a car person, and I thought that would hold me back from being interested in it, but I actually kind of like the haunted car concept. I think it's really creepy and fun, and that book got creepy, and I do have an adaptation of it, which I enjoyed. And then The Dead Zone, which that was one where this guy gets special powers, psychic powers, psychosometry, or touch know, and he'll touch objects and he can see visions of the, how that object was previously handled, and he ends up finding out, and it kind of ruins his life. He has to quit his job. He can't touch anything without having problems. And everyone is either want to exploit his gift, or they think he's evil or something, or trying to use them, and it's actually kind of a sad story. There is political relevancy, there is politics stuff in there, because one of our main antagonists is a politician, And when he comes into contact with this politician, he realizes if this politician takes power, that it could result in nuclear war and stuff like that. And it's, so I am a little wary when it comes to upfront, obvious political themes. Like, I know politics, it's inevitable they'll be in there, but if it's upfront in your face, like, obvious, then I don't necessarily love them as much, those kinds of books. So that's part of the problem, probably. But I still think the whole idea, the concept of a touch now, someone who touches objects and sees visions, is a really intriguing concept. But I think it's also horrifying to find out that you can't even touch things without being traumatized by visions. So I thought that was really... So yeah, those are the only 2 Stephen King books. I attempted to start Wizard and Glass, and I read a good chunk of it, but then I put it down and did not come back to it. And that's the problem, is I will start it, but then I don't come back to it. So I made some progress on that one, which is good. I was happy about that, but I just didn't, it's still unfinished. And then I've read 7 nonfiction books. So, which in this case I have to look at my list. So I've read Lola's House, Filipino Women Living with War. Nothing in February as far as nonfiction goes. March was the biography of Tolkien, Indolence of a Filipino by Jose Rizal. He's the guy who wrote Touch Me Not. Okay, that was the only thing I read nonfiction-wise in March. And then Monsoon Mansion was read in April by Sanel Barnes, which I decided to follow her on Instagram because she's a still living author, and still writing. And it's actually kind of sad, but because she talks about she had a brain injury not that long ago, so it's, but it's impressive how far she's come since then. But I thought that was kind of cool reading, following a present day author on Instagram. She also is a Filipino author, so that made it even better, even cooler. So that's the only nonfiction I read in April. Let's see if I read any nonfiction in May. I don't know, this happens every time. Like, I talk about the idea of reading my favorite books or reading books that I'm excited about in May, but then I just treat May like any other reading month. So nothing in May that's nonfiction wise. Nothing in June. Which is another thing I noticed, is that in the second half of the month, I got behind in my writing up my reviews. In the second half of the year. So I have a lot to catch up on that. And I don't want to, I really don't want to fall behind this year and make the same mistake. So I feel like I need to do a recent review and then an old review, or like do multiple old reviews for last year's reading, and then do a review and then do whatever I have now. Write reviews for whatever I have now. So nothing in July, so no nonfiction reading during the summertime. No nonfiction in the summer. Any nonfiction so nothing in September, which you would think September would be a good month to read nonfiction because that's the start of the school year. I mean, not that I'm in school anymore, but it's... But I kind of miss that. I'm a nerd. I miss that kind of stuff, the structure of school and everything. But I don't think I'm the only one. I've actually listened to videos that talk about that whole idea of everyone kind of analyzing that, why we kind of miss school, or the structure of school. Okay, and then, so, nothing in October. No nonfiction in October, I should say. I've definitely read stuff in October, but no nonfiction. which that was weird. That's one of my observations, is that in October, there was nothing that I absolutely loved in October that I read. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that, because that was when I finally got around to reading Katie Lumsden's book, The Trouble with Miss Montgomery Hearst. And Listen to Your Sister was a debut by Nina Veal that I thought was really good. Not a favorite, but still really good. And some of my other, like, Pen Pal was interesting. Horror movie, I have mixed feelings about that one. Okay, so in November, I definitely made up for November by reading 2 nonfiction books. And then in December, I read only one, The Plantagenets, in December. And I'm reading its sequel right now as we speak. So, nonfiction-wise was a little bit better. Like, according to, if I counted it right, that would be 12 nonfiction books. Or, no, 7 nonfictions. And as far as Asian works, as far as my Asian project, I have read, so I've read 12 that are I've read 12 books, so either they are Asian, either written by Asian authors, they were an Asian-inspired setting, Asian nonfiction, and Asian set stories, and Asian cultures. So, like, I didn't know if I should include Kazuo Ishiguro's The Unconsoled, because it doesn't take place in Asia and in an Asian country. It takes place in Europe, I want to say. They don't officially say it, but I'm pretty sure it's Germany. But he is a Japanese author. So, in a way, it somewhat counts because he was a Japanese author. So, I think he's Japanese. So I'm counting him. I also want to give, who's that other really popular author? Not Kazuo Ishiguro, obviously, but, I mean, he's popular, but I just mentioned him. But that other one, I don't know how to say his name. He wrote 1Q84. That's the only book of his that I've read. And I liked the writing. It was and I actually kind of liked it at the time when I read it. I mean, yes, there were some things in it that I didn't love, like the way he wrote the main female lead. I didn't love that. In fact, I was very uncomfortable, and that's kind of why I've hesitated on him. But there's a lot of people, including female readers, who still love him, and that is always frustrating, because there's, like, I'll hear some female readers complain about authors when they do that, male authors when they do that, and criticize it. But then there are some female readers that will still love that author. I mean, they'll provide the criticism and be like, okay, yeah, that aspect of their work I don't love. And granted, I read Stephen King, and sometimes his stuff in there is, like, I mean, there's the infamous scene that will never see the light of day as far as on-screen adaptations. In it, the infamous scene, if you've read it, or at least you might have heard about this scene. But yeah, there's a lot of aspects of Stephen King, so maybe I would be fine with reading this author. I cannot think of his name at the moment. Once I'm done filming, or towards the end of my filming of this, it will pop into my head. But he also wrote Norwegian Wood, which was inspired by a Beatles song, actually. So I don't know. I might try him, give him another shot, because I did like some Alan stuff about 1Q84. I thought the idea was intriguing, and the writing style was actually pretty good. I mean, it was slow, but I kind of liked it at the time when I read it. So I don't know I'm counting, but anyway, back to my Asian project. I'm counting Kazuo Ishiguro because he is an Asian author. But the book, a lot of his books are not Asian stories. They are European stories, European-centric. But I'm counting him. That's why I said Asian authors. The rest of the Asian authors are, they're writing Asian-oriented books. And I also have one book that I read at the beginning. Grace of Kings is an Asian-inspired world. It's Asian fantasy. I don't know what Asian countries, or maybe it's a mix of different countries, kind of like, but I read that one. That also applies to my series, which I talk about that as well, and I will get to that in a minute. But I read that at the beginning of the month. And let's see. Indulgence. So, let's see. So the rest is Asian-inspired world, or actual, Asian nonfiction and Asian set stories set in Asian countries. And like I said, I'm still sticking to the whole Filipino and Japanese focus right now. So I've read Lola's House, that is Filipino women living with war, by Evelina Galang, which she's included as one of the new authors I tried this year. I've tried a lot of new authors this year, but then some of them I won't continue with. Not because there's anything wrong with them, I'm just not interested. So that's her interviewing a lot of these women who were held captive by the Japanese soldiers during World War II, and they're now Lolas, as in grandmothers. And she did a whole documentary on that. And then, like I said, no Asian literature or Asian content in February. March was when I read The Indolence of a Filipino by Razal. That was an essay. And I read another nonfiction in April, Monsoon Mansion by Sanel Barnes. Like I said, I follow her on Instagram now. This was about her family. She came from a very wealthy family, and then her dad kind of abandons them. He was a self-made businessman, and he leaves them because their business starts to fall apart, and then their home is destroyed by a monsoon, and it really affects his business. So he leaves to try to claiming he's going to go try to fix things. Their mom remarries another rich guy, and but he has money problems. I think he was like a gambler or something, and he loses all their money, I think. And it's kind of about her trying to survive, her and her half brother trying to survive. And so it's based on a true story, which is really, it's amazing. Like, reading her story and then seeing how her life is now on Instagram and how far she's come, and wondering about her, like, what's her relationship with her mom like now? Like, is she still close with her mom? And so that it's just so fascinating. It's almost unreal that this story, her story. But I definitely recommend that. I also recommend the other nonfiction one I read, Lola's House, especially if you're into World War II stuff content, because I feel like we don't talk a lot about what happened in the Pacific, and you know about what happened in Germany and all that, but you don't hear a lot about unless you are just someone that's interested in that subject, that aspect of the war. And so let's see. In April, did I read any Asian works? Oh, that April was that April? Oh no, May. We're on to May. My birthday month. Which, like I said, I always say I'm gonna read books that would really get me excited or favorites, and I never do. I just treat May like any other month. So that was when I read Unconsoled by Kaji Ishiguro, which was my second Ishiguro and so I'm counting it as, like I said, an Asian author. And then June was when I read Lucia Strado by Miguel Saijuku. I don't know him. I still don't know. I need to figure out the pronunciation. But that was really interesting. I'm gonna really struggle reviewing that one because it's been so long, and I think I remember it. It will probably help looking at it and reading the description stuff. But anyway, so I read that, and then July, ancient, that reminds me, July was also when I started thinking about ancient literature. That might have been when I also started listening to, I decided to come back to listening to Jean from Jean's Bookish Thought. She has a podcast, that's Ancient History. She hasn't updated in a while. No surprise, but unless I'm not following her, I have to check. I have to see if I'm following her, because maybe that's why. Maybe I'm not following her. But yeah, so July was when I started, I read, but actually I will talk about that when I talk about classics. Okay, so Ramayana, and a shortened modern prose version of Ramayana, and I also have another version which I'm confused by that one, because that one's a longer book. This one was really short, a really shortened version. So maybe that one is just not shortened as much. It's just, maybe they're both modern prose versions. And I don't know how to say the author's name, the translator's name. But R.K. Narayan, I don't know. But I include that because I think that is technically, India is technically included with Asian, the continent of Asia. So, nothing in August. September, no, nothing, no Asian. And actually, as far as October goes, Babel, I read Babel in October, so that is an Asian-inspired fantasy world. And that's the only one that's not Japanese or Filipino related, because that's Chinese. The main character is Chinese. And actually, October was not, I was looking at the last part of October, which is when I made sure to read some more spooky books. But actually, the first books of October were actually, I was happy with those. Like, I read Of Light and Darkness by Roald Cahill in October, and Babel. So I was happy with those, too. So yeah, October wasn't a terrible month. Okay, in November, I didn't read any Asian work in November. And December was when I read Shinshiro by Natsumi Soseki. And he was a new author. Okay, so let's see. As far as series goes, I finished 3 series. So that was, I started out the year with the last book in the Heartstones trilogy, which that is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, stretched out into 3 books. So I finished the last one. And then I also read All the Light That Falls by James Islington, or Islington. That is from the Lycanius trilogy, and I don't know if I can review it because it's been so long, and I meant to attempt a review, and I never got around to it. So now, so much happened that I don't remember it, and I don't have the book anymore, because even though I absolutely loved it, I enjoyed that trilogy very much, I did decide to donate it to the Outpost Bookshop. So I don't have that trilogy anymore to really talk about it, so I can't really do it. I cannot, unfortunately, do a review for that one. And I also finished the only series or trilogy that I finished within 2025 was the King Raven trilogy by Stephen R. Lawhead, which is a Robin Hood retelling set in Wales. And in I guess 1066 would be the year that was supposed to take place, because the Norman invasion. William the Red was the antagonist, one of the antagonists. And I really liked that trilogy. I thought it was really fun. I did another one that I did decide to donate to Outpost Bookshop. So those are the only 3 series that or trilogies I actually completed as far as, and then I started 8 series, meaning read the first book and even made, but did not continue yet. But they're all ones that I want to continue, which is, Grace of Kings, which is the Dandelion Dynasty quartet or saga. Let's see, is there anything in A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, The Lady Trent, Seraphina Trent, something I cannot remember, but it's the one where it takes place in the 1800s and this woman studies dragons. I don't know how many books are that one. And then, let's see. I don't know if you would count the Three Musketeers as series, because, okay, and then after, Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, that's another trilogy, but it's part of a longer series, so, but it is the start of a trilogy, her Lives of Traitors trilogy, but it is part of a longer series. So it's not the start of the series, but it is the start of one of her trilogies. Fireborn is another one that I started, but I don't know if I'll continue that one. And then, let's see. Oh, okay, so this was the Tudor / Plantagenets project, Catherine of Aragon, The One True King by Alison Weir. So that was the start of a series that I read. A Study in Drowning is a duology, and I don't know if I'll continue with that one. And The Harrowing of Gwynedd by Katherine Kurtz is a series, although, like with Ship of Magic, it is part of an ongoing series. But I don't know if I'll read the other ones or not. But the next one is the year one of one of the characters is the sequel. So, and I'm reading that one on my Kindle. That's one of the ones I'm reading on my Kindle. Okay, so yeah, that's all the series that I've started, and the rest of the series or trilogies are actually books where I've made some progress on them, but I haven't. Oh, and actually, Journey in the Center by Jules Verne is part of a series, technically. So then we have C.J. Sampson, the Shard Lake series. That's one of the ones I don't know if I'm going to continue or not. There's 2 series that I don't know if I'll continue or not. That's the Shard Lake series by C.J. Sampson. I did listen to that on audiobook. I did like it, so maybe I'll continue if I get the other ones. We will see. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn is another one I started, but so that goes to the whole starting series that I start, but I don't know if I'll continue because I don't have access to the rest of the series because I don't want to buy them. I mean, I don't know if I saw book 2 at the library. I mean, I guess I could go by the library and check. I do want to, that's one of my goals, one of my more activity goals, which is to continue to try to get over my anxiety about the library and how, when I get books from the library, I'm going to have to return them or just renew them if I don't finish them, and I know I don't have to finish them, but it just makes me anxious because I'm like, oh, I have to prioritize these because I don't own them. I have to return them back to a place at some point. So I'm like, oh, let me get these read so I can return them, and I want to at least have one of them done. If I borrow more than one book, yes, I don't have to finish them, but I would like to since I'm taking the time to borrow this book. So I feel obligated to finish it because there's no, I want to, or it's like a situation where I want to know what's going to happen, but I don't want to buy it. So I want to finish it. And I don't have to keep renewing it every time. So, which means I can't even get the longer books from the library. But yes, I know you're not spending any money. You don't have to finish them. You're not, and you're just borrowing them for a period of time and you can renew them. I know everyone will tell me, I feel like everyone would tell me that, but it just, you can't tell me those things and it's like magically it stops me from feeling anxious about it. It's not going to make my anxiousness go away. That's not how that works. But I do want to try again this year to go to the library more often, so I don't feel guilty about, that I can feel a little bit better about my buying books. And maybe I won't, this probably won't happen. It's not going to make me stop buying books, but, the only other excuse I have, and yes, I'll admit there are excuses, is my library is small right now anyway. They finally talked about building the new one, and I'm sure that's going to take a long time to do. And it's winter right now, and a snowstorm might be happening this week, at the end of this week, so. Okay, now let's see. So, yeah, Legendborn technically is when I started, but I don't know if I'll continue. I read, in March was also when I read books 2 and 3 in the Rosales saga. Tree and My Brother, My Executioner, and I read it in a 2-book bind-up edition, and that's the same thing with the other books in that series. I read those, and if you count, well, I guess no, because it's not a Middle-earth book, so you can't count The Fall of Arthur as part of a series. And let's see. So, but Baron Luthien you can count as part of a series in a way, because it's part of the older series. Like I said, I don't know if you count The Three Musketeers as a series. It does have sequels. So I guess in a way, I guess it is a series. So I've read that one. So here's the other one that I'm not sure about that I'll continue. And that is Odd Thomas. Now, unfortunately, this will be a situation where, again, I will have to borrow the book from the library if I want to continue. So that was not off the table. I've seen the books from the series at my library, but I don't know if I've seen them. I think I've seen other ones. So, granted, there's a possibility I could, with the Outpost Bookshop. That's not super expensive. But I've read the first 3 books in audio. So that is Odd Thomas. Dean Koontz is the author. It's narrated by David Aaron Baker. And then Forever Odd is book 2. And then book 3 is Brother Odd. So I don't know if I'll continue that one or not. And then Fireborn is another one that I don't know if I'll continue. Again, I listened to it on audiobook, but I don't know if I have access to the other ones yet. Oh wait, no, I did listen to that one on audio. I read that physically. Yeah, that's right, I read that one physically. So I don't have, but I think I've seen that on audio, I think. I'll have to check. So I read the Darkfire. I listened to the sequel by C.J. Sampson's Charlake series. Darkfire is the second one. Okay, so another series I made progress on in August. I almost read all 4 books. That is the Wax and Wayne series, the second Mistborn era. I almost read the whole thing. I was set to read. I was thinking about reading the last one, the whole thing in 2025, but it did not happen. But the last, so I've read Alloy of Law, Shadow of Self was in September, and November, I read Bands of Mourning. So, and there's only one more book left. So I was very close to finishing it, but I didn't. I do have the fourth one, so which that's progress, I think. Because sometimes because I still, most of the time I will start the series and then not finish it. At least not finish it for several years. Okay, so and let's see. Okay, so yeah, so that was all this. That was how my series is going, and then, okay, and then we have. I count on it. So new to me authors, and it said I counted 41 new to me authors that I've tried. And some of them I won't continue. Like I said, they're not bad authors. It's just I have no interest in continuing. So we have C.J. Sampson was one of them. Ken Liu, M. Evelina Galang, which I know she's had other stuff. She's written other things, I think. Jacqueline Suzanne, Howard Overeem Sturgis, Thea Home, Carissa Orlando, Kurt Vonnegut. And now some of these are ones that people probably aren't familiar, and some of them are ones that are classic authors, like Kurt Vonnegut. Humphrey Carpenter, I've tried. Although I haven't, Tracy Dion, Katie Hayes. Even though I've attempted reading A Natural History of Dragons before, I'm going to say Maria Brennan is new to me because I finally actually read the whole thing. Garth Stein, I read. Sanel Barnes, I tried for the first time. Dean Koontz, I tried for the first time, and that was actually a recommendation from a coworker who also likes Stephen King. She's, was telling me that if you love Stephen King, you might like Dean Koontz. So I made sure to stick with some more like fantastical ones by him. So that's why I picked the Odd series. Faulkner I tried. This is an author that I am definitely one of the ones I decided not to continue. He was also on the Rory Gilmarine list. Tatiana Hardy. Kafka I tried for the first time. I think. Wait, actually no. Kafka's not a first time author because I've read his Metamorphosis book in school. That was assigned reading for us in college, I think. Either high school or college. Stephen R. Lawhead I tried this year. Rosario Mundo I tried this year. Miguel Suzuki I tried this year. Sophocles I've read for the first time this year. I finally got a Italo Calvino. Peter S. Beagle is a new to me author. I've tried because I've never actually read him. I'm familiar with the cartoon of The Last Unicorn, but I've never read his work. So I read 2 by him this year. Ferdia Lennon, M.T. Anderson. I've read 2 Vonnegut's now. Player, Piano, and Galapagos. I was purposely wanting to avoid doing his Slaughterhouse 5 book because it's so popular. Virginia Woolf. Yeah, I guess she would count because the first time I had access to The Lighthouse, I didn't really read. I attempted to read it, but then I couldn't do it. And my sister does have that copy of the book. Wilkie Collins. Well, actually, you could technically count Wilkie Collins because I don't think I've read. Wait, well, did I read The Woman in White? I'm trying to think of when I read that one. That might have been 2024 when I read that one. Robert Harris I tried for the first time. That was a Steve Donahue recommendation. He didn't directly talk to me, but he had talked about Pompeii. He mentioned Pompeii in his list of good historical fiction to start with. Michael McDowell, I've been reading his Blackwater, so I finished it this year. Alison Weir I tried for the first time this year, and I'm still continuing with. Constance Sayers is another author I'm trying this year. Joseph Conrad I'm trying for this year. I tried this year Ava Reed. Ballad of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings is a new to me author, and I really love that book. I definitely recommend it for people. There's only one other person that one of the podcasters I listened to talked about the book, so I was excited to hear them mention the book. None of that. Dathan Albrook he's new to me. Nina Vale, this is his debut, so she's new to everybody. R.H.P. Mason and J.G. Kager, those two guys are new to me. Sei Shonagon, she's new. I don't know if the two R.H.P. Mason and Kager probably have other stuff, but Sei Shonagon, I don't know if she's written anything else. If she wrote anything else. That might have been her only book. Linda Rutledge is new to me. Catherine Kurtz is new. Dan Jones is new. And I did this year, I'm reading his next book, War of the Roses. And I will continue reading. And there's another book that I saw at the Outpost, but it was a hardback book, so. Chris Whitaker is new. Natsumi Soseki is new as well. And I know he's got multiple books because I have some of them. I've collected a lot of them now. So that's as far as new to me authors. So that's a lot of new to me authors. Anything else I want to talk about? Okay. Classics. Let me see how many classics I read this year. 1, 2, and I'm counting the ones that are technically not officially classics, but like not ones that you study or talk about still today, but they're by a classic author. So I'm counting those, like The American Senator. So 1, 2, 3. So 3 books in January. 1, 2, 3 books. So I've read 6. That's 6 so far. So 3 in January and 3 in February. March. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in March. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I guess I'm counting ones that are classics to me, but they're not like popular. They're not like, Bleak House or Les Mis or something. But they're still. Although I don't know, maybe The Result Song is not a classic. I don't know. Or it could be a modern classic. So that's. I have to recount again. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think it's 11. 3 in January, 3 in February, so it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so yeah, 10. So 10 so far. 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14, that's 14. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, so that's 22 so far. Oh, crap! God, I hope I don't have to. Okay, my screen just went black, so hopefully I won't have to refilm this and it won't matter. And I lost my damn spot. Okay. to count all over again. Okay, so I have to start over. Okay, so 3 in January, 3 in February, that's 6. And that's, so 4 in March, so that's 10. 8, 9, 10, wait, 10. Okay, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 14, 15, 16, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, I'm on 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So 30 classics. 30 classics within the year, within 2025. And then, let's see, and, okay, yeah, alright, so I'm just gonna, that's all I'm gonna, so that, I'm not gonna count, like, genres or anything like that, because that's just too much, and I already had a moment where the screen went black, and I don't know if it won't matter what I'm saying right now, I'll have to refilm it anyway. We will see, though. Anyway, so that is how my goals went this year in my reading projects. If any of you guys had any goals for 2025 or reading projects that you were working on in 2025, it'd be cool if you made a comment and told me how that went. And I hope you enjoyed this, I hope you were cool with and interested and enjoyed what this and wasn't too boring for you. And you had fun sharing this, hearing me share this information. And I hope you are currently enjoying what you are reading. If you're reading something good and engaging for yourself. And my reading is going well right now. Like I said, I'm really excited that I made a lot of progress with Lord of the Rings. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!